A new study suggests Twitter and its 140-character messages could revolutionize the way political campaigns are run. Indiana University research finds it comes down to this: more tweets equals more votes. More than 500,000 tweets were analyzed from 435 competitive races in the months leading up to the 2010 midterms. Listen to this. In 93% of those contests, the candidate with the most mentions on Twitter won. And here's the really interesting twist. Didn't matter whether the mentions were positive or negative. Here to tell us what this means for the future of campaigning, social media expert Eric Yaverbaum of 11media.com, co-founder. Always great to have you.
Always great to be here.
Twitter and social media have been playing this increased role in campaigns, but my goodness, what does this study mean for the future of elections?
Well, I mean, 93%, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And it's not, that wasn't a small sample. That's over 400 races for the House in 2010. It's, I mean, 500 million tweets. That's a really statistically relevant thing to look at. We've talked about this before. I thought Obama got into the White House basically on social media. Here, you see it on Twitter. And, you know, in the old days, the days that I grew up on, you know, there was a saying, any press is good press. I never believed that. But I think it turns out any tweet is a good tweet. 93% got elected.
The co-authors of this study say that this study kind of levels the playing field for folks who don't have a lot of money. If you're in polling, are you nervous right now?
No, all the guys. You know what? I'm sure all the guys in polling.
They're going to keep hiring the pollsters.
But by the way, the pollsters are mostly wrong anyway. But we'll see which one is more right than the other. And I know all the pollsters are getting that question, you know, in the past couple of days. And there's still a very relevant role for them to play.
So how is it different, this social media interaction, than what the pollsters do?
Well, I don't know. You know, again, I always keep my eye on research and say, you know, this is one study. Let's see if it bears itself out over time in a new medium. But I can tell you that the new medium, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or you name it, will play a big role in who gets into office. So you have to master this stuff.
Well, is Twitter on a growth path? Because I ask that because only 15% of American internet users are on Twitter, and only about half of those tweet every day. So if there's a surge, I wonder if it will make this even more predictable or less so.
Well, I think that every time, you know, Twitter gets talked about, like this story right here, Twitter was very accurately able to predict 93% of elections in the House. I mean, that's incredible. That's off the Richter scale, you know, successful. The more people hear about that, the more people will get engaged with Twitter. I never got Twitter in the beginning, but I got to say that, you know, it feeds everything else that you do in a social world. And the way that news is disseminated now, Twitter is almost first almost all the time.
You know, and they also say, as we pointed out, that it doesn't matter if it was good or bad, but if it's overwhelmingly bad, in a case of, let's say, an Anthony Weiner or Mayor Filner in San Diego, well, then all bets are off.
Well, that's right. And, you know, again, if they did the same study for the mayoral race, I bet Anthony Weiner still is winning on Twitter, but he's losing in the race. So, you know, obviously there's exceptions.
So how does the campaign do this? I mean, obviously, let's say if you have a debate, especially you have a presidential debate, it's getting a lot of attention. Twitter's going to go crazy anyway, but for those non-big moment times, how do campaigns use this?
What people have to do on Twitter, it's just like you would do, you know, on the show. You're engaged with people who are interested in you. They like what you have to say. They're mostly positive about you. That's why they follow you. And maybe some of them you follow back. Candidates have to learn how to play the whole game on Twitter in order to talk to the people that are most predisposed to seeing their perspective.
It's a fascinating study. It's a great conversation we'll continue to have. Eric Yaverbaum, always great to see you.
Always great to be here.